please tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Charle Malas. I am part Armenian, part Christian Palestinian on my father's side. My educational background is applied physics with electronics. I graduated from Kingston University here in England, where I have been in this country for now more than 50 years, but
Wow.
that's another story. Um, my career background is in logistics, transportation, aviation, ship movements, and what have you. But the as you progress in my career, then I became more involved with port management, and also specifically dry ports. Dry ports in terms of I also not only manage and operate, but I also now design and create dry ports, which basically segues into what I've done for Armenia as to my connection with Armenia, and that is to create, design, and propose the Shirak Dry Port Special Economic Zone.
And can you tell us a bit more? Why did you create that? What is the purpose of it?
The genesis of that came straight after my father's passing away, and he died in 2010. Um, One of the ways to deal with the grief, I basically I just threw myself at this, at designing something, and Armenia wasn't in my plan. So I looked at Ethiopia, I looked at Qatar, I looked at Uzbekistan, but then one morning I literally woke up and said, "Well, wait a minute, you're Armenian. Look at Armenia, landlocked. It could be beneficial there." And so I spent 3 months studying it, investigating it, and what have you, and then I created it. And after 5 iterations, eventually it was proposed. I proposed it 3 times. Once here in London to someone very high up in the Armenian government who was here. That didn't go very far. And then in 2016, the Ministry of Finance contacted me after a friend proposed it to them. But they said, "Charles, can you remove the railway side of it?" I said, "Well, no, you can't. It won't work. You need the railway element. So no, forget that." And then in 2019, I tried to propose it again, and that fell on complete deaf ears until Vahen Kerobian, the ex-minister of economy of Armenia, he had heard about it. And he contacted me and said, "Charles, I'm now Minister of Economy, and I want you to come to Armenia to do this." And which in 2022, I moved to Armenia and spent 2 years developing and working on it, and was approved by the government, by Pashinyan himself approved it and said, "Let's do this." And things began to collapse after that. So I've returned back to England, and now I'm working on new projects and what have you. But I hope that the government will continue with it. This was a gift from me to Armenia. I never asked for any money for it. It is my idea. I still own it in a way, but I've gifted it to Armenia for them to continue with it because it's going to be good for the country.
Wow, that's really great. Thanks for sharing. And can you please tell us what was your key takeaway from today's discussion on AI challenges and opportunities?
Well, I've heard AI so much now. It's really everywhere on the news. You now wake up hearing about AI, you go to sleep hearing about AI. And I am totally AI illiterate. I wouldn't know. I've heard ChatGPT, I use it from time to time, and I find it to be extremely educational. I learn a lot from asking questions, and ChatGPT comes back to me with answers, and I'm saying, "Huh, that's a different angle." But having lived in Armenia for 2 years, having worked, and particularly when I began to give lectures at the universities over there, introducing the Shirak Dry Port SEZ to students there, I realized that the youth in Armenia, especially at that level, university level, higher school levels, they are some of the best and most amazing human beings I've ever come across. And I get teary-eyed because they really genuinely are some of the best human beings in the world. And I've traveled and I've worked overseas, and trust me, I've never come across such human beings before. People like you. And the fact that they are now so much into AI, that they are so literate, so understanding, so have such in-depth, that being here today, and I'm so glad I did come, because I took away from today the connectivity between my old technology and what AI can integrate with the technology that I'm used to. heavy cranes, heavy equipment, ships, aircrafts. There is an interconnection. I think we're at I've learned today that with AI, we are at the very early stages of how it can contribute to the work that we do, particularly if the dry port in Armenia does proceed and does go ahead. There is huge benefit that it can actually gain out of this. And the youth in Armenia who are involved in all of this, they are the most creative minds in the world, in my opinion. They can contribute to creating new and evolve technologies to such an extent that the movement of goods or the creation of goods, which is what my concept was based on, and that is to be export concentric for Armenia, it would benefit those connectivities to such levels that I think even countries like Dubai might even, who are supreme experts in this field, would come to Armenia and say, okay, then now we see what you're doing and we see how you're doing it. Let's work together on this. And that today's meeting helps in that creativity and that interconnection between cross borders and cross border movements of goods.
And what kind of strategies would you implement in your business that you've learned from today's session?
Well, my first question was to Paul, one of the panelists, was that blockchain is something that we used to hear about a lot. It was the buzzword. And then suddenly nobody's talking about blockchain anymore. Everybody's talking about AI. And it was purely through him that I learned how they actually intertwine and integrate together. I know how blockchain works in my industry. The trust element of the movement of goods, of your connection with customs and excise, of customs clearance, of pre-clearance, pre-notification of goods arriving, delays or what have you. But now what he said, okay, then, but the AI element adds an additional level. Neither will take away from each other, but one will complement the other. And I only learned that today, where I was completely confused before. I mean, I'm good at actually designing and putting together these structures and which part of the world they should exist. But then the operational aspect of which I have a lot of experience in operating ports. How do they connect it with new technology? Today I got that.
So the ports do not use a lot of AI at the moment?
No. Today, ports are just now introducing blockchain technology. But in the future, now how I see AI, how it would work, my next stint hopefully is going to be in Saudi Arabia. I'm just waiting on contract terms. I understand how I can connect blockchain and AI together, and that's going to be my takeaway today in terms of how I would implement it in my business.